Hi there, citizens of the world. This is Willem Engel from Holland speaking. I want to do a little report with my fellow citizens. I want to report about the riots and the violence in Holland. So what we have seen the last few days, and I must say it started with the demonstration the 17th in Amsterdam, where I was part of, is extreme police violence. Now, of course, we also see a lot of violence from rioters. These people have nothing to do with the peaceful protesters. It's very clearly different groups. And I want to take you through how I think this works, because we see these patterns happening all over. So the 17th was a very peaceful protest in Amsterdam, people gathering. The local authorities had banned the demonstration, which is a clear violation of our human basic rights. We have the right to demonstrate. We do not have to have a permit for that. Then the police was really cracking down with a lot of violence: horses, dogs, water cannons, clubs. A lot of people were sent to the hospital, and a lot of people were unlawfully arrested. That was very surprising to us. And a lot of people in Holland also became very angry. So the week after that, we were back in greater numbers in a few cities, but still peaceful. And then we saw the same thing happening again. And in the meanwhile, I spoke to the police, because some policemen were really having trouble condoning this. And they confided in me that they were given the order to use all violence necessary, which is a very strange order when you're handling peaceful protesters. So we saw the same thing happening last Sunday, and that was really the last drop. Then violence broke out. At first we thought, okay, this is an uprising of the people, but then we started looking at the images and we saw other patterns happening. So all these riots were incited by undercover police, covering their faces and organizing in groups of what we should call brown shirts, trying to incite violence, hitting protesters, then police coming in and trying to destroy things. We have also seen rioters, and those rioters constantly work also with the same pattern. These people also wear face masks, and normally demonstrators do not. So it's very clearly distinguishable from the protesters. Now, these rioters are stirred up via Telegram groups, and we have reason to believe that intelligence agencies are actually steering this instead of trying to avoid this. They have infiltrated in these Telegram groups and are calling for the youth to vandalize every major city in Holland. So this is police violence, undercover incitement, and infiltration of these groups. Now, the fourth step, we are seeing a call for the military to step in and a call for foreign troops from Germany and Belgium to step in. For us, it's very clear that this is an orchestrated takeover to install martial law, to try to keep these oppressive measures that were installed for COVID, which clearly is not working anymore because people do not buy the story. So I wanted to give you a brief summary of what's going on in Holland. Tomorrow we have a press conference trying to explain this to the broader audience in Holland. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Willem. And now please, Gina from Spain.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gina. I'm from Italy, but I live in Spain. And I joined an activist group that is called Colectivo de Humanos Conscientes y Libres. That is like humans conscious and free. And we organized a big protest on past Saturday with calling all the people from Spain, all the other association. I don't know if you know, but here in Spain we have the Police for Freedom, Firemen for Freedom, Journalists for Freedom, Psychologists for Freedom, Artists for Freedom. So we try to join, we try to unify everyone, okay? Not only the people, but even artists, Spanish artists that are famous or not famous, to start a protest that was with a march from walking from one point to the square, and then in the square we were brave enough to build to put some sound, so artists could sing, dancer could dance, and the association could read what they had to read. But in the way that was possible for the audience to listen. Okay, so everything was very, very fine, very, very pacific, until when the police step in, they park their I don't know, there are fuggers all around the square. They started with the alarm, it was really a boycott. It was really childish from their side, because they start with a sirens, how do you call it, alarm, and all the people got scared, of course. And many people left. Then they came on the stage. There was a natural stage on a rock in this square, so we used that one. And 10 of them, they came on stage trying to stop our show. And they wanted to arrest a doctor, because this doctor that belongs to the group Doctors for Freedom. This doctor said, "I'm not gonna wear the muzzle. I'm not gonna wear the mask, because I'm a doctor and I know that the mask is not efficient." And the policeman wanted to arrest. This is just ridiculous. At the end, no one got arrested. No one got kicked, or there was no violence. And I must say that the police was ordered to put some fear and to try to boycott our manifestation, but it was not violent, thanks to God. And then the end, we succeed, okay, because we were able to call. To put together around 10,000 people, and under this dictatorship, we were able to create a show with music and with good vibrations. So for me and for many other people, it was very successful. And if you want, do you listen to me? If you want, I have some videos or some pictures so I can share, and to share around the world and to give hopes, because this is the most important.
Thanks, Gina. But now Yanis from Latvia.
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to meet you. I'm Yanis Pļaviņš from Latvia. We have in Latvia formed Latvia Freedom Alliance, where we have gathered, we are one of basically the largest opposition in Latvia, and we have been organizing a protest. This was on 12th of December. This was the largest protest in Latvia since the last decade. And after that, we organized a more attractive kind of protest, which is like caravan of cars. Then many cars are driving to specific cities, and those are we call them the freedom rides. And we also took all those events on live videos. Using the StreamYard, So we could switch from different cars, from different perspectives, from different angles, and there were many people taking those, documenting everything. And we had also a studio, a small studio, where we could comment on what is going on and switch from one driver to another, and those lives were about 6 hours each while we were going to the specific city, and also many people took part in these events, but the first event in December, it was about 5,000 to 7,000 people, and then the caravan of cars, there were about 500 cars approximately. But due to the live videos, it was watched by I think 1/3 of our population approximately. So it reached quite serious amounts of people. But due to this popularity of those events, now all the people who were engaged in this, they also now are suffering quite heavily from all kind of police accusations. There's even one criminal case opened, and hundreds or even thousands of administrative cases because of all kind of breaching, these so-called COVID measures and everything related to them. And the total of fines is hundreds of thousands of euros. And so they have now chosen the way. So they are just like attacking all the activists with the state administrative system in all the possible ways. For example, I have a water and food production company myself, and we were fined 15,000 euros of false accusations. We're now in the court. The case is in the court, but still it's like a long process at the moment. And for me, being like one of the central figures in these protests, they have also canceled. They have managed that all the shops cancel orders from us. So this is really something. And so the conclusion of all this is actually that this is a crime against humanity, because according to our local Latvian criminal code, there's Article 71, Part 2, which says that actually crime against humanity is when a group of people is being prosecuted because of their beliefs. And this prosecution, illegal prosecution, it's very visible, because for the last decade, I didn't have any criminal, administrative, or any other cases for me personally. Now, just after the first protest, I have had about 10 different administrative cases against me. So it's and I'm not the only one. There are like tens and hundreds of people who are suffering the same illegal prosecution. So this is the way how the system is trying to beat us at the current moment. And now another thing that we are what are the solutions? We think that we have now already done a lot about showing the diagnosis of the system, that it is not attacking the actual COVID or virus or this fake pandemic, but it's actually attacking people and who speak different opinions and everything. and this is also is very visible for all the people in Latvia how it is happening. And now the solution is that we are like forming a parallel, like we are trying to form a parallel state, which we call the freedom state in direct translation, because and we are founding this on we're keeping like our constitution, and we want to build a new freedom state with all different changing all the laws and all the system, because it is so corrupt and it is so deep in the swamp that it is just impossible to change something from inside. And that what we are aiming at is that just this idea depends on how many people are supportive. And in Latvia the situation is good because in this sense, because government is very unpopular. It is supported by critical low numbers of population, and of course this is not a 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month project, but I think that it's quite possible that in maybe half year, a year or more, we could get, I don't know, a few 100,000 people support and really form basically a new state. And we want, you know, as a bankrupt company, that all the liabilities and all the debts, they stay to the old state, which of those people who have actually usurped the power and who have made all those decisions. So they should stay liable. And the major difference, the major point is just the trust of people. If the people support the new option, and the old they don't support, then the old, it's impossible for them to stay, irrespective of what the legal grounding is. And our success is also that we have been 100% peaceful all the time, and we all the only some kind of attacks have been only by the police, and we have managed to just go through 100% peaceful from our side. Thank you. Mats?
Yeah, thank you very much, Yanis. And I think I will finish off with Denmark. So Maneka, will you tell us what's going on in Sweden, please?
Yes, hello, my name is Maneka Helleberg. I'm a chairman of World Freedom Alliance. I'm a teacher, mother, entrepreneur. And I've been leading a lot of the, the freedom movement in Sweden since the beginning. And of course, Sweden is heaven compared to many of the countries that we see around the world. We actually have no, forced masks. We can walk around freely. So there hasn't been, large protests yet in Sweden. But there's already actually people, coming to Sweden as refugees from different countries. I've heard quite many actually, since it's quite mild pandemic laws. But of course, there are restrictions, and people a lot of businesses are very hit by these restrictions. And also now we had a pandemic law that was in the beginning of the year, decided by the government, still very mild compared to many others. But for instance, we can't meet more than 8 people at a time, so protests are not allowed any longer, and there are fines for meeting more than 8 people. And we had, before this, in the autumn, we had an amazing rally in Stockholm, the first one. where we had a lot of people from the World Freedom Alliance and where we formed the World Freedom Alliance. And the police were actually, I think the Swedish police have been very polite and very nice. We had a good conversation with them and they actually left us alone. The same thing in Gothenburg. We had another rally where the police has been very peaceful. But now after this, these more restrictive measures in Sweden, we've seen violence, and it seems like I recognize what I hear, that it seems like they target people that they think will bring a big reaction, like they want a reaction to happen. Because we had a protest when they passed the pandemic law, we had a protest outside of the government, and out of hundreds of people standing there, they picked a black man and arrested him. And I think and did it very violently. It's all on my on my Facebook. But somehow the first protest there, they picked this black man because I think they wanted a reaction. They didn't get it, so they haven't managed to get any violence. It's been all peaceful from our side, and we're going to keep it that way. And the second time, there was a protest just the day after against the pandemic law, and then they attacked an old woman standing there. That got a lot of attention, but it's also just like you're saying, like they're trying to provoke, like they're trying to get a reaction somehow. So, and otherwise, I mean, in Sweden, we are now organizing beautifully because we have some time to breathe. So we have set up civil defense, and we're also working on organizing local groups so that we can actually protect each other. We can, inspire each other and really work together as much as we can before we get even more restrictions and lockdowns in Sweden as well. So, and we just formed also Freedom Sweden, that is going to be the branch of the World Freedom Alliance in Sweden, which is really, really exciting. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Maneka. Mikael, will you tell us what's going on in Kenya and maybe Africa, to your knowledge? Thanks a lot.
My name is Mikael Nordfors. I hope you hear me because I have a Kenyan internet connection.
Yeah, we hear you, Mikael.
That's good. It's that's the downside of Africa. The infrastructure is not as good as in Sweden. I'm here on a business trip trying to do some good things for African healthcare together with a fellow businessman, and I'm staying at a hotel now in Kenya. And when I heard about Kenya, I heard, oh, they have very tough restrictions in Kenya. You have to have mask all the time, and they have a curfew after 10 o'clock. It seems like they respect the curfew. If they are out after 10 o'clock, they're in trouble. So everybody goes home after 10 o'clock, but there's very much life on town between 8 and 10. So everybody wants to party here. So they have to do it very quick. But then I see the masks. I think 80%, maybe I cannot measure 90 before, but I think 80% don't give a shit. They don't have any mask when they are out. And then there are like 15%, they have a shin mask, maybe the taxi drivers mainly, and the rickshaw drivers. Tuk-tuk, it's called in Kenya, rickshaw. And they have a mask, but it's a beard mask, so they never have it over their mouth or their. Only when the police comes, they take it up over the nose. The rest of the time, they keep it down on the shin. So it's Hakuna Matata here in Kenya, and as far as I see, all the shops are open, everything is open. You just have to. They have a temperature check before you go to the bank, and in the bank they're more proper. You have to wear a mask. But nobody seems really to care about it. It's very relaxed here and everything is working as normally, basically. It's my feeling. I don't think there is a big economic downside to the restrictions here because all businesses are open and everything works. I want to say something more. I heard about Tanzania and I'm heading there next week maybe. And in Tanzania, President Mogofali, I think is his name. He has forbidden all press cannot write. Censorship. They're not allowed to write. I heard about COVID, and they take no tests and they don't give a shit about it, and said basically bye-bye to WHO. So that makes me very interested to go to Tanzania, and I hope to maybe do some big things there together with the administration. I hope to find, my goal is to find like a free place where this, because I'm a medical doctor, and I've been trying to do good things with medicine. If you do that, you get very much problems in the West, because all the governments are corrupted. It's the upside down society. You do good things, you get punished. If you do bad things, you get rewards. That's the problem. And I cannot do bad things because then I don't feel good. That's my, I used to say I have an allergy against evil. And so I'm trying to find a place where I can use my skills as a doctor, also in politics, without getting punished, and do it in a good way. That's my dream. But I want to say one more thing. We founded a becoming party in Sweden last Sunday called Frihet Sverige, and Sanna, Ehdin, and me and Maneka, Maneka is the chairman, and Sanna and I are spokespersons. And I think in the bylaws we have a suggestion what freedom is. And we defined freedom in 2 sentences. Freedom is that everyone has the right to be informed about and take part in all decisions concerning him, herself. And we should avoid deciding over others as much as possible. It's called the subsidiarity principle. So all decisions should as much as possible be made on the individual level. Okay, that's it.
Thanks, Michael. This recording is mainly for activism and what's going on. We will continue our political debate afterwards here. Thanks a lot. Nigel, you're next.
Morning, everybody. I'm Nigel Utton. I live in England. I'm the education coordinator for the World Freedom Alliance and UK coordinator as well. I'm an osteopath. And right back in January, I realized that something was very wrong and started to go on protests. And I went on a protest in London in August, and there were 50 people. 2 weeks later, I went on a protest in London, and there were 40,000 people. And it was an amazing protest. Lots of people were there. I think Mikael was there. I think various people from the World Freedom Alliance were speaking at that protest. And what happened was, very quickly, the authorities here realized that something big was happening, and they shut it down. So by the 19th of September, the police raided. Trafalgar Square is the main square in London, and the police raided. And what I was hearing from Willem in the Netherlands, that happened in England back in September. And they smashed us, absolutely smashed us. They arrested Dr. Heike Schoening. The next protest on the 26th of September, I was due to speak at, and it was just disrupted by the police to such an extent that I think about 5 people spoke, and then the police raided the stage. So protests from September in England have almost been impossible. It's become harder and harder to protest. The laws have become stricter and stricter, and the police made it very clear to us that they were going to use violence against us. And like everybody else has said, I have never seen a single protester in any of the protests use violence against the police or against property. It's only ever the police that have used violence against us. The other thing in the United Kingdom, they've been using the laws against us. So I was charged against COVID laws for speaking to 50 people in my city. I was an elected official in my city, and I spoke to 50 people in my city, and I was charged, and I have to go to court in March about that. And probably hundreds of people have now been charged and arrested in Britain for protesting against COVID. They've come down on us very hard right from the start. The last big protest was due to be last Saturday in Birmingham, and the police wouldn't even let anyone go into Birmingham. They just closed the city down. So no, we couldn't even get there. So protest has kind of happened, it stopped happening in that way. We've gone underground. Lots of us are meeting in each other's houses, which is illegal. We're not allowed to meet in each other's houses, but I decided that it's like the early Christians when the Romans were killing them. You hide, you go into each other's houses, you carry on doing what you should be doing, which is protesting, but in a more intelligent way. There are amazing things going on here. I mean, the World Freedom Alliance is very new in Britain, but there are groups like UK Medical Freedom Alliance. There are lawyers groups getting together. There's an amazing newspaper called The Light, which hundreds of people are distributing freely up and down the country, and we're leaving them in places for people to find them. And it's a really good newspaper telling the truth about what's really going on. So there's very good things going on, but it's incredibly oppressive here. It breaks my heart. I mean, hearing what's going on in the rest of the world, it's as if they trialed it in England first, and they're practicing on us to see how badly they can treat the rest of the world. And it is really, really hard living here at the moment. It's a very difficult place to be because we cannot do anything legally. They've made everything illegal. So we're having to work covertly, which is, I lived in the Soviet Union when I was a student, and it feels exactly the same. It's very, very frightening. So yeah, I'll end on that very depressing note from Great Britain, I'm afraid.
Thanks, Nigel. Solly, will you tell us what's going on in Switzerland?
Yeah, hi. My name is Arsha Yojofi, and I'm a journalist and publisher, and I help a number of initiatives getting established or expanded all around the globe. As for Switzerland, Nigel, you mentioned the restrictions and unbelievable measures. For Switzerland, we don't yet have to pay fine for snowballs, but we are quite close to your situation in England. You know, gatherings are forbidden, and the number of people meeting up limited officially, or, you know, we go to the illegal if you see more people than 5. What's very interesting that because mask wearing is obligatory here, in the first phase of the lockdown, people were wearing that, but they were not very aggressive if you were not. As of now, thanks to the great propaganda, you know, the convicted believers, they really get aggressive. So aggression is going, extremism is growing. And you need to know that in Switzerland, people grow up understanding that they absolutely need to comply with anything. So compared to that, the activism, what you see in this country, that's very admirable and very active and very great. One thing that strikes me about Switzerland, that there's quite resistance, you know, sort of, we have quiet walks, we don't have protests, we have a lot of activism going on in internet, in small grassroots sort of initiatives. They are achieving a lot because, for instance, in December, number of people who wanted to get the so-called vaccinations, injections, or whatever we call them, were 50% of the population. Now it is down to 30%. So it is effectively working quietly at the background. Information gets spread. One of the greatest news that there is an organization called Friends of Constitution, with the leader, someone we know is on the board, Christoph Flüge, and they collected the necessary signatures to get a petition through to the parliament And now there is going to be a public vote. So they are using the remnants of direct democracy established in Switzerland. And in the summer, sometimes there is going to be a vote whether the government righteously keeps the extraordinary status and keeps going on with the lockdown and or the population say, no, thank you, give your rights, extraordinary rights back. You don't go, oppressing us anymore. So everyone is fired up to prepare for that, to spread information, which is a very, very great news here. And I think that's a good example how you can use any possibility in the legal world to start bringing people together.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Osolia. And before we move to Sanna from Australia, Nigel has a brief remark.
I'm really sorry. I got stuck in a negative spiral there, and I forgot one brilliant thing that's happening in the UK. That we're having a project, I do not know who started it, which is called the Great Reopening. I heard about it 3 days ago, and on the 30th of September, in theory, as many businesses as possible are going to open. Now, I'm on the local Telegram group for my city and area, and it looks as if we've got a lot of support. So if we can get that to happen, it would be amazing. Did I say 30th of September? Sorry, 30th of January. Time has just sort of gone. 30th of January, the Great Reopening. So I don't know. The backlash is going to be huge because the masked majority is very, very powerful. But let's hope that we can get enough people to open their businesses and show that it's possible. So yeah, 30th of January in Great Britain.
Hello, I'm Sanna Ehdin. I have a PhD in immunology and I'm a health doctor. I'm Swedish and I'm very happy to be part of the World Alliance, World Freedom Alliance that Maneka co-founded, and also the Freedom Sweden. And I work with educating people about health and self-healing, and that's what we need now. And in December, I wrote an open letter to the Prime Minister in Sweden and the General Director for their public health, because they're doing nothing but restrictions, like nothing positive, nothing to support the immune system, like none of that. And did some films and it stirred up things. But as Maneka was saying, it's still quite, it's not so bad in Sweden and people are not so protesting. But what I get, because on social media, I get a lot of support. A lot of people are woken up and they're very angry about this, but there's not like a big activity going on outside yet. And then there's this compliance where people think the vaccine is the greatest thing. They don't realize it's offering really nothing. And I think every day about what to do. And I'm really touched and sad about what you're telling, because since a year I happen to be, I think, in the best, it's like paradise in the Western world. I'm in Australia and Western Australia, and we have no COVID since like forever. And there's like no real restrictions of any kind here. I mean, they say 1.5 meters and there's you have to sign in and sign out in places. But I have coffee with the police and I chat with them. Everyone is so friendly and nice here. So I can send that good energy to you. And I think really the key for this, I mean, the key for what they're doing now, because this is a scheme. This is like a bad fairy tale, like you sit down and you read a fairy tale for the children. This is where like the bad guy and the wizard, the demon, like they're all here. And the only way they can succeed, and they know this with what they're doing, is if they can keep people in fear. So our biggest, like I call this private activist, is that we refuse fear. We go into to bliss, to love, to joy. We can either be in the stress body or the bliss body. And we're designed to be in the bliss body because 98% of the activity happen there. We stay in the stress body. We become weak and easily manipulated. So that's something I really want to contribute with. I think everyone is doing fantastic things, but I think this is what I can do the best. I'm about to finish the book of 450 pages. It's about fasting, but fasting is taking away the junk, because we need to take away a lot of junk now, like media junk, food junk, like a lot of junk has to go so that we can sort out what's important. And that we, like Latvia was really inspiring how you're creating like a new country sort of on the side. And that's what we need to do, because the sick will implode. Nothing built on lies and violence ever lasts. And it's going to go down faster now. Usually it lasts 200, 300 years, but that's what we've had now. Industrial revolution, 200-300 years. And we've had since before the First World War, with the termination of humanity started. So it's been going on for about 100 years now. So I think this is like the turning point, and I'm really, really hopeful, and I'm really enthusiastic because I see so many talented, skilled people like the World Doctor Alliance, like the American Frontier Doctors, the World Health. I mean, we're unstoppable. They can try to silence some people, but this is unstoppable, and it's growing by the second. So watch out, here we come.
Thank you very much, Sanna. And now, before we move on to Senta, who will talk about Belgium and France, Mikael, just want to come in with a short remark?
Yeah, I forgot to tell. When I travel on the airplane, I usually have the suit on because I discovered you get much better treatment. So when I left from Copenhagen, I asked for an exit seat. And I got 100 seats for myself in the plane. It was not very full, the plane. But I also want to say one more thing. Now it's not about COVID. They are fucking afraid, sorry for swearing, all the politicians, because they know when they get exposed, they will end up in jail, all of them. And they are desperate now to keep us down and stop all demonstration. And that's the real issue now. They are fucking afraid, these guys, and they know what awaits them.
Precisely. Senta.
Yes, hello, my name is Senta Depuydt. I'm a journalist in Belgium, and from the both sides, but more the French-speaking side, let's say. And I'm also the founder of Children's Health Defense in Europe, so the organization of Robert Kennedy Jr. in the United States. And so as Belgians, we have, it's a very small country, as you know, in the middle of the European institutions. And so we're always looking out for what's happening in different countries. So I'll start speaking about Belgium a little bit and then about France, because the French activists prefer not to make themselves visible at the moment. So just as a reminder, Belgium is a small country, but we have two, let's say, populations. So one speaks French and the other speaks Dutch or Flemish. So it's already always a little divided. It's not a population that's very well organized in general. We are a country, and we're also hosting many European institutions and international institutions. So it's a country that's not very, there's not like one spirit, and we're pretty much under especially Brussels, the Brussels area is really very much under the influence of Europe and the international agenda. Our former Prime Minister, Charles Michel, he was elected from the town where I was living, and where they have the biggest vaccine plant in the world from GlaxoSmithKline. So GlaxoSmithKline is like the #1 employer in the south of the country. This man has more or less, lost in the last elections, but now he was promoted as the president of the Council of Europe, so which is about the #1, one of the most influential positions in Europe. So what's happening here? We're not a very revolutionary people. And so we're a very adaptive, compromising, nation. So and so they tested out all, the most ridiculous measures in terms of how far you can go, the bubbles changing every day, like, the number of people you're allowed to see. So right now I believe I don't watch anymore, because it just don't follow these rules. But let's say it's like the 1-person bubble, or you could invite for Christmas, you could invite like up to 4 people if it was outside, in your yard for Christmas dinner, but they could not go inside to go to the toilet. Or, I mean, they're just testing out the most absurd things, and people adapt to see how far people can adapt. In terms of protest, there have been court cases, but of course, most of them were rejected, for the same reasons as everywhere. So, and in terms of rallies, the same tactics have been seen as everywhere with, police. So I can remember one of the first rallies in Brussels, where many people I knew, and a lot of people, who usually don't come to rallies, mothers with little children, people who are, conscious and do a lot of meditation and, trying to explain the situation, and doctors, and even there, of course, there was a lot of police provocation and police violence. So some of my friends, were arrested and beaten up, and threatened. And so, but of course, the press doesn't report on that, and the people are very still, they still believe a lot of what's in the press. We have the highest number of death cases, more or less, so in the world. So they, I think a lot of people are just still very much in the scare, and they're more or less trying to see, they know that what's going to happen in Europe as a whole, in Germany, in France, and with the European institution is going to, let's say, change their faith. And so many are just waiting for it, to be over, and for the general situation. However, I hope this will change, and perhaps we will have changes in politics, political situation. The thing is, for the first 18 months, we were without governments. Belgium is 30% of the time we're without government. If you look at it over the last 20 years. So it's actually, the country is actually being ruled by corporations, the European institutions, and the people in the administration who just, stay there for 30 years and have everything, corrupted, and have everything in their hands. Without the Europe, let's say without Europe, the country would probably separate. So it's a complicated situation. The French people, the French-speaking people, are in general watching what's happening in France, and globally let's say at the moment, let's say that the country, the government is copying what France does. And the Flemish population, which is the majority, generally looks up at what's happening in the Netherlands. So that's also why they don't agree. And of course, the Netherlands have been much more so far until recently, but I think Willem could confirm, for most part of the year, they were very relaxed with the measures, not so much lockdown, no real pressure on people. So it's just recently that the situation has changed. And I'm particularly, I'm almost speechless to what's happening right now. In the Netherlands, it's the same as Sweden in a way. You were very, let's say, open and relaxed and fighting for your rights, trying to protect businesses and the population in general. And then suddenly, it's like before December, there's like this general push for the countries who didn't really, let's say, went out of the general rule, and to suddenly, push a heavy, pandemic law, and really, yeah, it's quite surprise. Well, it's not a complete surprise, but it's a little frightening. So where France, the situation in France, on the other hand, is to me, France is clearly not a democracy anymore. I mean, we know, you have to consider that they had this 1 year of protest with the Gilets jaunes movement, the Yellow Vest movement. And so, you know, in a way, the population knows that, you know, they have been out there for weeks after week after week for more than 50 weeks, I believe. They did everything they could in huge numbers in many cities, and it resulted in absolutely zero result, let's say, in terms of you know, political improvement or economic improvement or whatever the population wanted. Changes in, you know, democratic functioning. On the contrary, but the police violence is extreme in France and has been condemned also even by international organizations. So if you look at what's happening in a protest in France, the usual way now goes. You would look at the images and you think, oh, this is a war, you know, this is happening in Iraq or in Afghanistan or, you know, or in Syria. You know, you see all smokes, you see the black blocs, you know, they're so used to that, to all those, let's say, paramilitary who will provoke violence, and then they go along with the police corpses, the police forces. So one is just provoking people, and you know, and the other will just, you know, they shoot with flashballs. So many people were heavily injured, beaten up, arrested. You know, some people lost eye, hands, casualty, death. So that's been going on for quite a while. So now the latest, so I can say that during most part of the year, there was not so many protests regarding the pandemic situation. What's happening now, there is a divide, especially between the south and the north of France, because there was this whole situation with the fact that doctors are not allowed to prescribe, and especially the whole hydroxychloroquine issue. So in France, in the south, where they had this Didier Raoult and all the institute where they were treating patients, you know, they do start to really want to rebel, let's say, against the government, whilst in the north, in Paris, you know, it's still more very, yeah, it doesn't move a lot. Even if so what's happening over the last weeks is that the government they would like to, you know, have even more dictatorship measures. So to give you an example of how the parliament power is totally, you know, it's just gone. When the government proposed the extension of the lockdown and of the state of emergency, they needed at some point, they needed a vote from the Senate. And the Senate voted against, that was in December, the Senate voted against it. And the Minister of Health came into the assembly, started to shout at them and said that if they could not understand that people were dying, they could just leave the assembly. And so they obliged them to take a second vote, you know? So even when you vote against it, it doesn't, you know, it's just a joke. Currently, France is a joke. It's a comedy, you know. It's not a democracy anymore. And the latest, what they want to do is they want to reinforce, you know, police force and military force a lot. And so journalists have been and citizens, and so they want now to have a global law on security to prohibit people even from film police violence, because, you know, in case of those poor policemen who beat you up might suffer consequences. You can't even see them because they're dressed like Robocops, not as policemen. So, you know, you wouldn't even know who they are. But even if you film them, you're going to be, you know, fine. So, I mean, the situation is really very concerning. But there are after this, really bad news. I can say that there is a big group of doctors right now, and they're acting. They decided to treat patients against the government's decisions. There are many court cases. A lot of the people from those movements, from the Yellow Vest, want to start new political initiatives. The South is also really, so there have been massive protests against this law for global security of police forces. So things are going to move in France, but for certain, everybody wants it to be peaceful, but it is very difficult because the government is just very violent. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Senta. And now, Tessa, will you explain a little bit about Denmark?
All right. Greetings. I'm Tessa from Denmark, and I have a background as a biomedical assistant. Right now, I am working here in Denmark with a TV station that is going to be set up with free news for the people. And I'm going to tell a little bit about the demonstration that has been going on here in Denmark. We have had an escalation with the demonstration, and this is mainly with a demonstration called with Men in Black. These demonstrations are going on a little bit later at night, and they are all dressed in black, hence the name Men in Black. They are very peaceful demonstrators. They are all kinds of people. They are children, women, men, all ages. And they go out with torches demonstrating and have signs and such. Unfortunately, we have now 3 kinds of police in Denmark. So we have the white hats, we have the regular police with masks, and we have the police with full costume. And those we haven't had before until these demonstrations with Men in Black. And we have now experienced a lot of police brutality, because these police, as many countries know, don't actually care so much about the people. They are just there they have their orders. So there's a lot of violence with batons hitting on the head. They are shoving people. They do not take into consideration if it's elderly people, if it's women, or if it's children. They just shove them down into the ground. Last demonstration we had with the Men in Black, even the press got thrown into the ground. And I think even there was a man who got his fingers broken. He was stepped on. So it's really escalating these kinds of demonstration. And I think this is only the beginning, unfortunately. Last demonstration with the Men in Black, there was also an incident which we are not entirely sure what this is. Some say it might have been staged. Others say, well, it was the Men in Black. We're not sure yet, but there was a door that someone put up in a light, what's called street light. And it has a sign on it. And it said that it was of the Prime Minister and that she would be put down. This door was also burned later on. And this was actually after the demonstration had stopped. 2 men were arrested. They were 30 and 34 years old, and 2 other men is also going to be arrested, or they are in absence. And they are facing charges, I think it was paragraph 113, 115, and 226. And they're facing 16 to life, as I hear of it. And that's the reality of Denmark today. Not a democracy either. Over to you, Mats.
Thanks a lot, Tessa. Yeah, I would, thanks, first of all, thanks for all your valuable comments about what's going on around Europe. And I think that I will follow down a little bit about what Willem was talking about, which pretty much is the use of police agents. So the demonstration we saw on Saturday, which I didn't take part of, this was the Men in Black demonstration. We saw police without numbers on. And of course they forgot to use that, yeah. Then we have a lady who on a demonstration a couple of weeks ago said that let's go out and burn down this city in a peaceful way. She got 60 days in jail. She's now gone underground to in hiding. And this particular lady is one of the bravest ones in Denmark. She's the one who talks about systemic pedophilia among the power elites. So they are, of course, really out after her. Then there was a demonstration as well. They say that demonstration, which I'll come back to, where they use police agents. One guy is dead. We are trying to get this verified. They are really, I mean, unlike Black Lives Matter, where you instigate demonstrations all over the world because of what has been killed by the police. This was an 18-year-old boy. You can see that they are just beating his head while he's lying down, and they carry him around like a sack of potatoes. I have only heard from a reliable source that he is dead, and that his sister is 17 years old. She's terrified, and she's gone underground as well. She's also in hiding. Then we saw on that particular event where this boy died, and the young woman was sentenced to 60 days in prison. Even though the judge first released her, saying this case is ridiculous. She said, burn down the city in a peaceful way. Come on, it's ridiculous. And then the police came back and still wanted to put her in jail for 60 days until they could put it into the court system. In that particular demonstration, there were 5 police agents, and you knew they were police agents because nobody knew them. They were all wearing the same shoes, and they all had earpieces, right? And I don't know any demonstrations wearing earpieces, yeah, and going together. They were all in their early 30s, all walking next to each other, like in a military formation, or they were like all the time together. And we have videos of them, and they were the ones throwing these fireworks that makes a lot of noise. But this was not the type that you can buy for New Year's Eve. This was military army grade bombs that you use for exercises. I have a friend who's a former soldier who told me that. So it was clear that they instigated. They threw bottles after the police. They threw these firework bombs in through the demonstrators and the police. I mean, who does that? Yeah. And then there was. When in my demonstration, which I organized, we decided to walk around town. When we were close to the palace, 160 combat policemen made a formation. Then there was a man who we also filmed. We know who it is, and he's not one of our regular demonstrators. 100% certain he's a police agent. He made a firework, which of course is illegal unless it's New Year's Eve. So the police wanted to attack us. Then my co-demonstrators, Maria and Fleming, they decided to immediately walk backwards. So we all walked backwards. Then 4 police agents with masks on, and none of us had masks on. Yeah. So these 4 police agents, they were dressed in black with masks on. They came out shouting, "No, you should walk back towards the Queen's Palace, where all the soldiers, all the police soldiers were waiting for us." Yeah. So there was a kind of a confusion. So about 30 people decided they were confused. They just stayed. But luckily, the main group of about 1,000 people all walked backwards. So we did not have a total massacre on that event, on the demonstration that I organized. And in the end, those 30 people we managed to talk to the head of the police, a local police there, and said, come on, it's only 30 people, it's women and kids there, come on, it's old people, what are you doing? And then we heard him say, abort the mission. So they were ready to attack with 160 police officers against civilians, yeah. So, and then with the Burning Doll event here on last Saturday, which Tess explained, it was when they finished the demonstration and they came back, there was a doll hanging there, a doll of our prime minister, and then it said kill the prime minister, or she should be put down, or something like that. And then they burned it. Someone burned this doll. I don't know who it was. And obviously you get 16 years in jail for that. I mean, over last summer or a year ago, there was some people from the Communist Party in Denmark. They burned down a doll of our former prime minister, a man called Lars Løkke, and that was just jokingly talked about in the newspaper. So you can clearly see there's one law for some and one law for someone else, right? And also I want to talk about the example in Eindhoven. We saw a video which is going around the world where you see the police are standing in a formation with helmets on in two lines, and you see one demonstrator standing 5 meters away from them shouting at the police, and then you see all the demonstrators, and all of a sudden 5 police agents dressed in black with mask and their hat on, some hat, you know, not a helmet but some kind of a hat. They then ran towards the demonstrator, grabbed him, and ran towards the police. What does the police normally do if 6 people are running fast against them, right? They will stand ready to fight, yeah? No, they didn't. They moved away, made a hole in the line. So they knew this was going on. They knew that these 5 dressed in demonstrators were agents. So they allowed the 5 men and this poor demonstrator who was standing bravely in front of the police shouting at them behind the lines, and then they closed the line again, and then they beat the crap out of this guy. Five guys against one. They just beat him up, kicked him, and so on. This is out in a video, so it's 100% certain. And I have a law degree, and I've been an investment banker, and I've been looking at facts for 25 years when I was trading government bonds for the largest investment banks in the world. And I know what is fake news and what is real news, because I used to trade a lot of government bonds and futures and options and derivatives based on the information I have. And I can say with 100% certainty, the police in Europe are using police agents. And they are right, and I totally agree with Willem and some of you others of you that they are trying to instigate violence. And I agree with Nigel, who says that all the demonstrators are peaceful, and the only ones who are violent are either police or police agents. So, and then I want to finish off with some of the good news. We have in Russia, we have Putin, who's never been wearing a mask, by the way, and now it's out. My wife is Russian, and she just told me that in a Russian television, there is a very, very popular program on the main Russian channel that everybody watches, mainstream. She's a doctor, and she always comes out and talks about it. And now she comes out with a big scientific study in Russia about masks. They do not work. As a matter of fact, they damage you. They have found out also medical doctors working with surgery, those not wearing masks fare better than those wearing masks. So it is horrible. We also have WHO, as soon as Biden was elected president, coming out saying the PCR test does not work because you're using it more than 25 cycles. And they also came out with mask doesn't work, and also coming out repeating the Chinese study from November, where in Wuhan, where 10 million people live, where 30,000 people in a scientific study proved there was not a single example of asymptomatic contagion. This means that there is no reason for lockdown, no reason for social distancing, and no reason for masks, because it's not contagious. You get it in other ways. You don't get it from walking around among healthy people. It's only if you're sick. If you're sick, you should stay home, like you should with all the ordinary all the influenzas, the flu. So, and now to finish off with repeating what Willem said from Holland, I agree. We should keep flooding the system, keep asking for information, right to information acts, keep reporting the police violence whenever the authorities break the laws, break the constitution, break the human rights. We should keep complaining and taking them to court. We should just keep doing it. And I mean, I've not been wearing masks, and I take the train. I don't go anywhere without the mask. I do not comply with any of their lockdown nonsense. I am appalled and shocked on the amount of Stockholm syndrome in my country and the amount of cowardice we have here in Denmark. I never thought that the country of the Vikings have been so many without balls. It's unbelievable. It's a time to wake up. It's time to reopen the country. They are all lying, and now they're beginning to admit it. Even WHO, which is part of this criminal organization who was trying to having war on the citizens. Yeah, I think Senta wants to say something.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say, because this is, we have been depicting a terrible situation. Can we just, but without too many explanations, all of us, is there a reopening in our country? In Belgium, some people still plan to reopen. That I think these are perhaps one of the most important things we can do. And perhaps let's just, yes, many people want to reopen, 30th of January or 1st of February. At least it's the case in Belgium. Like each of us, if we can say, yes, there's a reopening in my country, I'd like to know.
Thanks a lot, Senta. Yeah, Yanis, do you want to start out? Is there any plan of reopening in Latvia? I don't think so. What do you say, Yanis?
Actually, in Latvia, we are not so active in this respect. So people, all the cafes are just for takeaway. I just for some more optimistic views, I just wanted to stress that there recently has been a positive court decision in Brussels. So maybe Senta could know something more about it. And they have decided that the masks are unconstitutional, and there has also been in Germany a very strong and impactful court decision in the court of Weimar, and which says that all the lockdowns and all those COVID measures are unconstitutional as well. So I just would suggest that we should gather all those positive court cases and maybe get the full documents, because this is very good to spread information and also to form argumentation in our local countries. And this would be a very good part of this movement, that we should flood them with many documents and questions and founded argumentation. Thanks, Mats.
Okay. Now I will just comment then on the court case in Brussels. So it's one individual judge on one individual case. I'm surprised that you're so informed that you hear about it. We're a small country. So unfortunately, we're very happy with that decision. In Belgium, it's not like one decision will make a change for everyone. It should, but it isn't the case. So the government is still trying to impose more masks and bigger masks and FFP2, and perhaps the children need to wear it from a younger age. It's confused as always. But thank you. Yes, and Weimar, I think that's important too.
Who's next? Mikael, are you there? Otherwise, Australia, please. If there's any reopening.
Yeah, we had it middle of January in Switzerland. There was a small initiative. It stayed very small. There were places everywhere, but just to indicate how small it stayed, in Basel there was one restaurant who opened. So, you know, like, you're not yet there. I think as the situation gets more extreme, there will be more people realizing, you know, what is the way or what works for changing this situation.
Thanks, Michael?
Yes, there is also a protest in Sweden that the restaurant personnel go out 3 o'clock every day and bang some pots and pans. They have many pots and pans to bang on to reopen the restaurants. And also I saw a very interesting interview in Swedish that not so many people understand, with a Swedish policeman called Conny Andersson, with the same guy who interviewed me before. And I could almost exchange everything I said about the medical corruption to the police corruption. And he said that after 1 year, every policeman in Sweden is totally disillusioned and they can never do the real good thing to arrest the criminals. They just have to, you know, it's kind of a meaningless thing. So there are so many policemen who are depressed in Sweden because of corruption. And I wanted to say something more. Yes, because of that, we have started a website called, and we'll start more now, it works now, called peoplescourt.org, www.peoplescourt.org. And Conny said that every policeman is entitled to, and they have to report every case you report to them. And all of these things, where policemen do bad things or whatever, you get arrested, you should report on People's Court and make a police report also, and make a copy of it and put it there. So all these people breaking the constitution by suppressing us, they will be out there on the internet so everybody can see them. And of course you can refer to a police report. And there will be, I suggest we should make a police report about every parliament member in Sweden, because they have breaking the constitution by doing this law. So that's another tactic that me and Conny was talking about, and maybe we can make it happen. And this point with People's Court is we are the courts. It's not that we go to some court somewhere, because most of them are corrupted by the system. We make our own court, like we did in the Viking times when we had the ting, it's called the thing in English, where we. Or in Athens, they had the same system, ancient Athens. So they were deciding court cases partly with direct democracy. Okay.
Thank you very much. So we just have Sanna, Tessa, and Willem for a short remark about, are there any reopening planned in your respective countries? Sanna, please, for Australia, what's going on?
Well, everything closed down like totally back in end of March, April, May. It was total lockdown, basically. I was in Western Australia. It was very peaceful. I went away, like really far away, and no one could go in and outside. You couldn't enter, and the borders to Western Australia has been closed. No one really in Australia are allowed to leave the country or come back from Australia. So, I mean, it's been pretty, that has been, but restaurants and everything, cafes, everything is open. And I think actually, you know, China owns a lot here. So why would they don't want business to go bad here. Business is good here. Business is really good in Western Australia. It's one of the booming countries. So what can I say? I cry for you guys in Europe, but I think also I went through hard challenges myself in my life, and that made me become a better, a stronger, a happier person. And I think that a lot of people were just kind of rolling along with how things were before, but weren't really satisfied. And what is going on now is unbelievably bad, of course, but I think it's our chance of great wakening up, and how like health people, like now I'm connected with so many people who are advocates for really good health, like all over the world. So I see a really strong, positive humanity uniting spirit here. So I see something really good come out of this. And I think we're doing really well for this being such a young movement everywhere. And I think, I hope that we who have been talking here today can inspire a lot of people out there to keep the good faith, and to keep believing in the good in humanity, because we want good things, and to realize the difference between the suckers that lie and are greedy and are, you know, corrupt, and it's all about power, even though where's this power and money going to take them? I mean, that's not happiness. All research shows that's no happiness. The more materialist, the more money, the more unhappy you get, the more sick you get. So we people are emotional beings. Love is our currency. Connecting and feeling good, sharing a heart, being happy, joyful. You don't need very much for that. I simplified my life. I lived a luxury life for a while. You know, I did all the big hot things, but I got rid of all that. I live really simple. I'm very happy. And I think this is a chance for humanity to really understand. It's very easy to be sold on the concept of the luxury of everything and the comfortness, but we need to kind of get rid of that, and we need to really sort out what is important. And when it comes to health, to put the money. That's why I left. I was doing top science. I left it 30 years ago because it was all sick, unhealthy. So I put put it into the healthy, the self-healing, that side. And I think we need to do the same now, because we can't fight the sick. It's kind of like trying to talk an alcoholic into not drinking alcohol. It's not going to be very successful. So we need to just put 90%, majority of our energy, 80-90% into creating new positive, healthy things. And the sick stuff is going to implode. I mean, it really is. And I don't know, because I love history. I've read so much history in my life. And back, you know, Edison, and I was Rothschild and a couple guys, 5 guys, was one president. They got together, this, I forgot, early 1800s or something. They designed like how the world should be, like industrial. So they've been doing this for a while. And this sort of brain control, top control, and now the technocracy, it's not going to last, because that's not the currency on Earth. The currency on our planet is love. It's connecting to people and it's recycling. And I compare with the human body, because my knowledge is the human body. Like, I know most things about it. And there's not, like, the brain is not like in charge of everything.
Sanna, can we interrupt you? We just wanted to finish just on the reopening, not on the whole plan for next time.
Yeah, I got going. Yeah,
because I was just forgetting, because that's what we're, you know, we wanted to finish. You know, France is going to reopen big. Italy, you know, 1st of January. Italy has already started, you know, with 20,000 restaurants and more. Some speaking even 15,000. And Poland has, you know, almost. We don't have anyone from Poland this time, but I think Poland is the biggest. So I just wanted to, you know, fit it in, because that's important, actually. Sorry. Thank you.
When is the opening center? When is that?
Sorry?
Poland. When is France opening?
So
no,
normally
France.
this weekend, they want to do it this weekend. So France, Italy has already started, but I think they will, you know, those who, it was difficult in the north of Italy. You know, it's a different situation in the south. In Sicily, they never closed, you know, because go there, tell a restaurant owner in Sicily that they will close. They will just get their guns out and say, you know, no way. So, but in the north, it was very strict. So they reopened. Some said 20,000, some said up to 50,000 last week, and they kept open even if there were a lot of fines. You know, they find the customers, but people said, you know, no way, we just, you know, we stay open, and you know, so I think it's gonna spread. And Francis wants to do it big this weekend also. And Poland has, you know, we haven't we didn't have our Polish activists here this time, but you know, Poland has really, they have that Góralskie veto, you know, when it started in the mountains with the Highlanders, really fantastic, you know, and then like last weekend the whole country reopened, you know, big part at least, you know, so I think they're also leading the way in there.
Yeah, just to add to that, in Italy, out of the 300,000 restaurants, more than 50,000 reopened, right? And if you add that, what Senta is saying, that the different geographical difference between north and south, it means, you know, almost 1/3 of the restaurants were reopening in Italy. So that was great.
It's excellent, yeah. And also in France, you have a tradition that I believe that whenever there's a new president, then all the fines are struck off. If you haven't paid your fines, then you're forgiven when there's a new president. At least all my
that
French
must be
friends.
part of the fairy tales they tell in Denmark.
No? Okay, my French colleagues told me when I was working in London. Anyway, let's move on to Tessa and then Willem, and then we finish off for today. Thanks a lot. Tessa, come on. What's going on in Denmark?
Okay.
Are we having a
Well,
reopening
Denmark,
here?
I don't know. Well, some of them are already open, so they are refusing to close down, and that's a really good thing. So I think we should support every one of us who can. Oh, sorry, I disappeared. Everyone who can support the ones that are open and try to influence each other, because I know, as you said with Poland, they are reopening really big, and they just say that they have come to this point that it's do or die. And I think we are coming to that point here in Denmark as well, because it's either you open or the business go down. So what do? I think most shops will reopen in Denmark. It's just a matter of time. I don't think we have a date yet for reopening everything, but I think we're coming to that.
Thanks a lot, Tessa. Willem, what's going on in Holland? Any reopening plans for Holland, do you think?
Yeah, so the original reopening was planned on the 17th of January. That's why we had the meeting in Amsterdam, or the demonstration in Amsterdam. That was mainly for the restaurants, but of course the restaurants in Holland are within the union, and those unions are the danger, because they collaborate with the regime instead of supporting the people which are in that union. So then they made it dependent on the shops opening. Now, of course, in Holland, we do everything in the polder model, meaning that a lot of shops are actually open, although they officially are closed. But if they're essential, even if they sell essential products, then they can stay open. So if you go to a normal shopping street, probably half of them have found a loophole to stay open. Except for all the industry that gives happiness, because we are in a war with happiness, we are in a war with culture, and we are in a war with cash. So this is why shops and entrepreneurs are hit hardest by these measures. These measures are not about a virus, these measures are about the Great Reset. Now, what we've seen with the riots, I think, is because these riots actually target shops. And that, to me, said it all. This is very clearly steered from intelligence services, because they are afraid of the shops opening. So now we are seeing the opposite, the shops barring down and putting wooden plates in front of the window so they don't get smashed. And I really urge all the shops and all the restaurants to just open. We have to make the army of love, supporting these shops and constantly being there, so they cannot be bullied and harassed by these special, because we now have the police, but we have a tier lower. It's BOA, and it means the police without any education. And now they're given also the authority to use violence. So this is exactly the thing that Hitler did with the SA in Germany. And those are the problem for the shopkeepers, not the police, but the other tier of civil servants. So the shops, most of them are open. If they're selling happiness, they're definitely closed. And we have to make a stand with the army of love to stand around them. And I think we have to go much further than that. Now what we're doing here is creating our own new media, because the old media is completely corrupted. Then we have to take care of our farmers, because our farmers are also entrepreneurs and they are essential in the food chain. So we have to start dealing with them directly outside of the supermarkets. Then for that to happen, we need to go to a new system of exchange, a sort of money system. If we have taken care of that, then the healthcare providers that are awake have to start making our own hospitals, our own healthcare centers with real science and real medical services. We have to look at new forms of home education. I have a dance school and I already thought like, okay, maybe we can use that space to start doing physical education to children again. And all of that is part of self-governance. We have to create communities to self-govern, to not go against the state because they have the monopoly on violence, but to create a new society within the old society, like a crayfish or a crab. When it grows, it breaks its shell. And what we are experiencing now is the shell of society being too stringent, being too forceful on us. And we have to break free. And then, of course, we are soft. So that's where we are vulnerable. And that's why we need each other to have our own protection emotionally, physically, legally. But I'm sure that we can do it. So we have to set those goals, short-term goals, go to your local farmer, see if you can get an exchange going. And from there, really from the grassroots, we have to build up society again. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Willem. Thanks to everybody. I think there's a big need for a video like this. And it was a long video. But I think we should make this a regular occurrence because there are so many events happening, and it keeps changing every day. And let's hope for the better, and just keep fighting. There's a lot of people who are very tired now, and some are giving up hope. But I think that the enemy is also very tired. They're beginning to fight among themselves, and I think all these scientific studies that are coming out, even from the lying, thieving mainstream media, and from the very deeply corrupt WHO, clearly shows that we are gaining ground. So let's just keep fighting, and I look forward to see you again next Wednesday, hopefully at 10 o'clock. Thanks a lot for coming in and your contributions. Thanks a lot.